Hey everybody, welcome back, and today we're going to talk about the Holocaust and how we're going to start putting all those pieces together of how Adolf Hitler and his twisted ideologies start to form what he will come to be known as the final solution, or the Holocaust, his persecution of the Jewish people and anyone else that is seen as an undesirable by the Nazi state. So for today, you need to include these next few slides in your notes. This should be day 5, and you can entitle this Origins of the Holocaust. So let's go ahead and look at it. And before we move further, I want to show you this is the entrance to the gate at Auschwitz concentration camp. We'll talk much more about what that saying means above the gate there. But for now, keep this mental picture in your mind. It's going to be pretty important from here on out. Again, to reiterate our previous quote, history is not inevitable. It emerges from a series of choices made by individuals and groups. People will make decisions that will change the lives of other individuals and change the course of history. Today in particular is an important message. This quote is very important for this message because think about what choices Adolf Hitler will make. Heinrich Himmler, Eichmann, who we'll talk about, Goebbels, and many of the other people who are part of the Nazi Party and who are also just part of Nazi Germany. Now, before we go any further, we do need to make sure that you understand really clearly the idea of what's called genocide. And so genocide is the deliberate and systematic extermination of a national, racial, political, or cultural group. It does not necessarily mean, it's not like the Holocaust where it's only about the persecution that happened in the 1930s and 40s to the people, enemies of the Nazi state. It can be anybody. So the Syrian crisis going on currently between Assad and the rebels could be considered a genocide. He's trying to eliminate any opposition. The Holodomor that happened in Russia is considered a genocide. The Rwandan genocide that happened in the 1990s. All of these are forms of genocide. So genocide doesn't just pertain to this one instance. It can happen in a multitude of places anywhere, and it can happen to a large number of different groups: religious, national, racial, political. Anybody that is going to be systematically exterminated, that is a genocide. So we've talked a little bit in class about Hitler's Mein Kampf, but it's important to kind of have it in your notes and understand fully about what it is. And so while Hitler is in prison after being arrested for the beer hall putsch, he lays out kind of his new vision for Germany. And if you remember from some of the quotes and some of the things we've looked at, it's a very twisted ideology. And he's basically telling everybody up front how he feels about particularly the Jewish people, but those who do not fit within that idea of the Aryan race. And Hitler gains support in the Nazi Party by attacking the hated Treaty of Versailles, using his anti-Semitic language. Is all going to make him more and more popular. So when he is released from prison, he's going to be a very popular political figure within Germany. Now, in 1933, he's appointed Chancellor of Germany, and he quickly changes the Weimar Republic into what he will call the Third Reich. It will be a total dictatorship. If you remember, he is going to create a totalitarian state. For lack of a better term, he is an autocrat. He is the lead person in charge, and he is going to rule with an iron fist. He's going to create a dictatorship. Also, under his rule, Hitler wants to create a master race where Aryan people will be considered pure and superior to all others. And doing that, he's going to follow the idea of eugenics, where he believes that you can breed out these undesirable qualities in people by simply not letting them reproduce or restricting who they can and cannot interact with. And so those are kind of the ideas that he's going to perpetrate once he takes over and once he begins this idea of racial purity and trying to change Germany forever. He's going to have his henchmen, for lack of a better term, that are going to help him along the way. One is Dr. Joseph Goebbels, who was the head of the Nazi propaganda ministry and controlled all communications. If you remember from class, I told you, he's kind of the guy who takes over for propaganda after Hitler does, when Hitler becomes leader of the Nazi Party. And he's going to encourage things like book burning to eliminate ideas. He wants to supplant Nazi propaganda, Nazi ideology firmly in the belief system of most people and eradicate anything else that sees differently than them or is going to challenge Nazi viewpoints. Here's a picture of a Nazi book burning. You also have Heinrich Himmler, who is going to lead a group known as the SS, which is the Nazi secret police. He will form mobile death squads at the outset of the Holocaust, known as the Einsatzgruppen, and he really is largely one of the architects of the Holocaust. He's the person who's going to kind of come up with the death camps. He's going to lead a lot of these ideas, and he's going to use the SS and the Einsatzgruppen to really do the bidding of Adolf Hitler and lead the early extermination of the Jewish people. You also have Adolf Eichmann, who helped organize the Holocaust. He was in charge of transporting the Jews from the ghettos to the concentration camps. There's a picture of him there, and he is a member of the SS and has a skull on the top of his cap. Very ominous picture. You also are going to have laws changed within Germany. So it's not just going to be that they're going to round people up and send them to ghettos or send them to concentration camps. They're also going to try to change the daily life of many people. And one of those ways is through what's called the Nuremberg Laws. And it's an anti-Semitic system of laws that did not allow Jews to be citizens. It was stripped of their German citizenship. And they were also not allowed to marry other German citizens that were not Jewish. So they also create rules that, such as the Jews could not be educated in public schools, they could not use public transportation, and they couldn't even use basic utilities like a public telephone. They also are going to enact things like this. On the right side there you see, these are a copy of passports of Jewish citizens of the Third Reich. They're going to emblazon them with a large red J to be able to easily signify who you are at one time, what your religious affiliation is, so that it's easier to point these people out. You also are going to have things like this. This is a racial purity chart, and it's all in German, so it's difficult to read, but basically this is how they're going to decide whether or not you are pure Aryan, by looking at your background, your racial background, because remember, Adolf Hitler sees Judaism as not as a religion, but as a race, and so he's going to look at your chart here and decide who is pure Aryan and who is not, and to what degree are you pure Aryan. You also have a registry that's created where all of the Jewish ancestry had to be put forward to the government. You had to prove whether or not you were of Jewish ancestry or not. And according to Hitler, it takes one drop of Jewish blood to make you Jewish. You also had to wear a Star of David badge on your clothing at all time. And if you see from the picture there, you had to be on the outward side, even on coats or shirts or jackets, so that it was easily identifiable as to who's German or who's Jewish, and who is not. And many of the Jews were also forced to live in ghettos. And we will talk about that in the next few videos and in class about what happens when people are forced to live in those ghettos. So life, as we start to see, once Hitler takes over, quickly begins to change for the German Jews. And it will start to change and for a lot of people who are also considered undesirable, people with disabilities, people who are gay, who are homosexual, people who are of color. Anyone who does not fit this ideology of the Aryan race will begin to be persecuted. And in our next video, we're going to talk about this event, the Kristallnacht, which plays an important role within anti-Jewish Nazi history. It's known as the Night of Broken Glass. And it's really the first time that we see kind of a strong outward government organized rebuke and punishment of people of the Jewish faith. And it all happens over the course of a few nights and is known as the night, again, as I said, is the Night of Broken Glass. So until then, make sure you have all of this information in your notes. Make sure you're ready for class tomorrow. If you have any questions, make sure you bring them with you. We will talk about this in much greater detail, and you'll get some first-hand accounts of what happens during the Kristallnacht and what happens because of these Nuremberg laws. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and take care. Bye-bye.